Hey guys, Houndoon here, coming at you once again with another Wi-Fi battle. Just before we start, unfortunately I have got the issue where your left ear will hear more of my voice compared to your right ear. I don't know why this is happening, but it's only happening on this laptop. So by the time I end my streamcation, or whatever you want to call it, I will be back to normal with the normal voice, so hopefully, yeah, I don't really know why it's doing this. But anyway, so, Wi-Fi battle. We're here today with another Hall of Fame battle. This time we were facing my flying team, which features a very, very bulky core, featuring Gliscor, Skarmory, Mantine and Togekiss. They cover each other pretty well. The only real issue is ice. Mantine and Skarmory can take ice fairly well, but it depends on the Pokemon. Especially considering there are a lot of like electric types that carry hidden power ice, which pretty much ruin this entire team really, because electric and ice have a huge coverage against this team. I really do need some sort of way to deal with ice, but electric can be dealt with as I have two electric immunities on this team. But anyway, so typical sets on all of my four defensive Pokemon. Mantine is my Defogger, and then Togekiss is my Cleric. It doesn't carry Wish, but it does carry the Heal Bell, which is quite crucial. Bit counterproductive with Gliscor, but it gets the job done. We've also got Stealth Rock and Spikes with Gliscor and Skarmory as well. And then I have my two offensive Pokemon, Dragonite for some physical, and then Thundurus with some special. Thundurus Therian is a Choice Scarfer, and then Dragonite is a Dragon Dance setup sweeper with Dragon Claw, Earthquake and Extreme Speed. I don't opt for the Outrage just because Dragonite isn't particularly reliable. Like, it does usually get the job done 99% of the time, but there are times when I do want to change up the moves, so I make sure to not carry the Outrage because Dragon Claw comes in useful a lot more than you'd think. And frankly, Dragonite has the power to be good enough after one Dragon Dance, as it has a base 134 attack stat, so certainly nothing to sneeze at. But let's go straight into the battle. So I'm facing another challenger. He has quite a few Pokemon which I don't like, particularly the Ferrothorn and the Sylveon, as well as the Darmanitan, which he happens to lead with. I lead with my Choice Scarfer, my Thundurus, just essentially to get some momentum with some Volt Switching action. I actually crit him here and almost kill him, which I was kind of happy about, but then I suddenly realised that I had to take a Flare Blitz, so I Aura U-turn, but I switch into my Gliscor, who is the best Pokemon to take it. I guess I could have switched into my my Mantine, but fearing the Rock Slide, so I decided against the idea. But he goes for the Flare Blitz, and he just KOs himself, which is very good, because Darmanitan is a very, very threatening Pokemon, particularly to my Skarmory. So then he switches into his Conkeldurr. I am fearing the obvious Ice Punch here, so I switch straight into my Skarmory. Just essentially to tank whatever hit this thing wants to throw at me. If it goes for the knockoff, I don't really care because Skarmory has enough defense to be able to take whatever. But he does go for the Ice Punch, no need to over-predict at this stage, so it's a good play. As he switches out into his Ferrothorn, I decide to stay in here and go for some Spikes, because frankly, why the heck not? I obviously know that this thing is probably going to be setting up rocks fairly soon, but I decided to go for the Spikes anyway because to get some damage, some early chip damage on the Ferrothorn and whatever frankly switches in is a nice thing. So I decided to switch into my Gliscor, who is more suited to take out this Ferrothorn compared to my Skarmory. But he goes for the Leech Seed instead of the Stealth Rock, which kind of took me a little bit by surprise, but actually kind of annoying. So I decided to double switch out after taking some Poison Heal at Recovery and go straight into my Mantine, in the hopes that I can do some sort of damage to this thing as he then goes for the Stealth Rock, which I was predicting earlier. So then I decided to go for an Air Slash, just try to get some flinch. It's obviously going to do a lot more than Scald at this point, but I don't get the flinch and he goes for a Leech Seed. I decided to stay in here because I feel like getting some sort of extra damage on this thing would be a nice thing. So I decided to go for a Scald after the after-turn effects, in the hope for the burn. Lots of after-turn effects. But I decided to go for the Scald just to try and get some extra damage on this thing with the burn, but I don't get it as he goes for the Power Whip. which is obviously going to do a fair amount of damage to my Mantine here. This thing has some physical bulk, but not anything too crazy, so manages to take the hit fairly well. But I don't really want to stick around, bearing in mind Mantine here is my defogger and this Ferrothorn is still alive. So after turn effects, I decide to switch out into my Togekiss, who is more suited to take out this Ferrothorn. This Ferrothorn is obviously causing me huge issues on this team, particularly considering I don't carry any Fire-type moves on this team. It's kind of annoying. But yeah, this Ferrothorn just needs to be worn down at this stage. So I'm obviously much more able to take on the Power Whip than my Mantine was, but he decided to switch out and go into his Sylveon, as I decide to go for the Thunder Wave. There we go, lots of after turn effects. So I decided to go for the T-Wave because I'm thinking on balance that the Paralysis would be good for the Power Flinch action, because Tokiss's Air Slash is going to be doing more than Mantine's, and yeah, I don't really want my Gliscor in against that Ferrothorn either, so I decide that the Paralysis is probably the best shot, but I don't get the chance to do that as he goes straight into his Sylveon as I Air Slash, and I don't get any flinch hacks as he goes for the Hyper Voice. Looking at the damage, I can tell that he's obviously a defensive set, because there's definitely no special investment there, special attack investment, because otherwise it would have done a ton more, and if it was specs it probably would have taken me out. But it's good to scout that, because now I know exactly what set he's running. But I decided to go for another Air Slash and don't get another Power Flinch, which sucks massively, as he goes for another Hyper Voice. I know it's not going to kill me, so I knew that I was safe to go for another Air Slash even if I didn't get the Power Flinch action. But I decided to go for the Roost here just because it's the safest play that I can go for, because I can absolutely outspeed this thing and just take whatever he wants to then throw at me, as he then goes for another Hyper Voice. So this Sylveon is starting to really bug me, because this thing, coupled with the Ferrothorn, is a core that's going to be very, very difficult for me to take down, particularly since me knowing that this thing is defensive means that he probably has the Wish. Which is very frustrating, especially considering I can wear down this Ferrothorn, then the switch out, then the Wish, and then the back into the Ferrothorn, so it's going to get very long and boring. So he decides to switch back into his Ferrothorn. I get to see how much the Air Slash does, and it does quite a fair amount. Looks to be a 4-hit KO. Perhaps not after the lefties, maybe just missing it. But I decided to go for the T-Wave, as mentioned earlier, because I feel like that this would be the best move to go for. As he then actually gets the Para Hacks rather, which is good for me, because I don't really want to be taking a Leech Seed right now. But I then decide to stay in here because I haven't really got anything I can switch into with this thing running around. So I decide to go for the Air Slash, and I manage to crit him, which was good, but not really helping me too much right now, as obviously that wasn't in KO range. If it was in KO range then it would have been nice, but yeah, without the KO range, meaning that that Air Slash crit didn't really do very much. But he then decides to go for the Leech Seed just to get some extra healing out of me, which sucks because now I'm not really doing very much to this Ferrothorn at all, particularly considering I have quite a high HP stat. So yeah, this defensive core is starting to really get on my nerves. But I decided to go for another Air Slash as he gets the flinch, which is all good with me. But I'm seeing a switch happening very soon to go into that Sylveon so that he doesn't risk losing his Ferrothorn here. But regardless of that, the Sylveon needs to take some damage as well, so I tend to stay in and go for more of the Air Slashes as he then switches out, as predicted, into his Sylveon again. It's back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, because the stall is very real right now. But I decided to go for the Roost this time just to get some healing. The Leech Seed is starting to really rack up, but I decided to go for the Roost before switching out because the rocks are up and I don't really want to have to lose any more health, particularly considering if I'd switched in with the rocks up and the Sylveon had gone for a Hyper Voice, for example, I would have been dead. So I decided to just go for the Roost before switching out into my Mantine. Take some Stealth Rocks damage as he gets the Heal Bell off, which is very frustrating, but I saw it coming, really. But yeah, it wasn't the biggest deal in the world because obviously Togekiss is still around, and the paralysis is not very difficult to get off. I decided that this is the time to get the defog off, because without it I'm just going to have to keep switching around, and yeah, I'm not exactly entirely sure on what moves that Ferrothorn is carrying, so I want to make sure that I have some sort of insurance policy against whatever I can switch in. So I let my Mantine die, get the defog off. He did his job. Unfortunately, he didn't get that Scald earlier, but Scald burn earlier. But he did his job. He managed to get that defog off. So I get straight back into my Togekiss, just to try and spread some paralysis again. As I go for that T-Wave and paralyze this Sylveon, this thing then goes for the Wish, which I was kind of expecting it to do earlier, but yeah. Now that I know that the Ferrothorn is coming in, although at this stage on the stream I actually forgot that he went for the Wish, as he then switches out into his Ferrothorn, and it's at this stage that I go for the Air Slash that I manage to score a critical hit. Now, the problem with this crit is the fact that I thought, oh, he's in KO range now, and then the Wish comes. So, of course, that completely screwed up my strategy of possibly taking out this Ferrothorn and ending this ever-lasting stall. That's the word I was looking for. Yeah, I'm trying my best to break through this stall as quickly as possible, and just trying to essentially get some Paraflinch going on. So I paralyze the Ferrothorn again as he goes for the Stealth Rock, so this time the Stealth Rocks are here to stay. But yeah, still trying desperately to end this stall, because this Ferrothorn is really starting to get on my nerves the way it's defending, and then paired with the Sylveon is starting to really get on my nerves. But I decided to go for another Air Slash, got nothing to lose at this stage, as he gets a flinch. And this is where the Paraflinch hacks are starting to work in my favour, as I go for another Air Slash, and I manage to flinch him again. The Paraflinch is obviously certainly useful against Ferrothorn, bearing in mind how freaking tanky that thing is, especially when you don't carry a fire type move. And I don't even carry any fighting type moves except for one that is carried on my Thundurus, and that would be Focus Blast, which is not necessarily a move that you want to be relying on when it comes to Ferrothorn. So obviously this thing is going to go ahead and switch out into the Sylveon, because he's been worn down enough. I decided to obviously go for the Air Slash in the hopes of possibly taking it down, but of course that doesn't happen, and he goes straight into his Sylveon just to get off another Wish. At this stage I'm thinking that enough's enough, I need to start ending this stall. So I know that this Sylveon is not going to be able to do anything to my Skarmory, so I switch it in as he goes for the Wish. Obviously I know that the Ferrothorn is going to be switching in here, but I decide I'm not going to be stupid enough to go for the Iron Head, because I don't think it's going to take it out, certainly not from the range that it was at, and then just take a ton of Iron Barbs damage. So I decide to not do that and start setting up my spikes, which are going to be very, very crucial, because he is switching all over the place, and if he lets his Ferrothorn get worn down enough, then when the Ferrothorn switches back in, then the Ferrothorn can die straight away to spike damage. So it puts a lot of pressure on him, because he has to switch all over the place, and he's going to be taking a ton of spikes damage. So I know that he doesn't want to end the stall, because he wants to keep replenishing the health on his Ferrothorn and Sylveon. So I decided this is the opportunity that I need to keep going for those spikes. Don't care about the Leech Seed, I can shake it off. I want to get up my spikes, because he does not carry a Defogger, he does not carry a Spinner. So I know that if I put up these spikes, then they're here to stay. And that's especially bearing in mind the fact that he's got his rocks up and I can't get rid of them. So I'm thinking, right, well, if you're going to give me those rocks, then I'm going to give you everything back, so that you can start really, really just wearing down your Pokemon, because the stall is never ending. Never ending. So I get my last layer of spikes up, and obviously my Skarmory here cannot do anything to this Ferrothorn, and there's not much point me trying to switch into an offensive Pokemon with that thing running Leech Seed, but I decided to switch out and go straight into my Togekiss, who's obviously the MVP of this core, bearing in mind it's actually able to tank hits and still dish them out as well. So he gets fully paralysed as I switch in, which is good. I don't know what he was planning to go for, but either way, I don't want to really take any hits on this thing. As of course it's paralysed, so I'm going to keep going for those air slashes because that is my best chance of being able to take this thing down. So he gets the flinch right there as I get some lefties recovery, and I'm going to just keep going for those air slashes because I definitely do not want this thing to be recovering any health with the leech seed or doing any sort of those shenanigans. So I'm just going to keep hammering away at this thing with those air slashes constantly. Getting a little wary because I know that I'm running out of air slashes at this stage, so kind of having to formulate some sort of plan here about what I can actually do against the rest of this core, because I can't stall forever. But it's after this turn that the game changer happens. The stall breaks at this very next move. I manage to get the air slash off, flinch him again, and he then goes, well, I go for the air slash, and this is the crucial move. As I get the air slash off, he goes for the gyro ball, which I'm thinking, crap, what do I do now, because that is going to obviously take me down. No way in hell am I living that. So Togekiss goes down, and I'm thinking, right, well, I've got to think of a way that I can absolutely break through this stall. So I switch in my Gliscor, who can tank any hit from this Ferrothorn right now, and actually do some damage back. But I'm thinking at this stage I need to get those rocks up, because the rocks are going to be doing some major help to wearing down the rest of those Pokemon. He goes for the Gyro Ball. I don't think it's going to take me down, bearing in mind my physical bulk and no weakness, so I'm thinking, well, I can live that. Poison Heal up, and then just follow that up with a Roost on the next turn, and now I can take it even better. I can see the Leech Seed coming, but I decided to just stay in anyway and go for that Roost because it's much easier. But it's this time that he misses the Leech Seed, which would have been a lot nicer earlier, particularly when I was trying to go for those para flinches. But I'm at a nice amount of health right now. He switches out into his Sylveon, of course, because those are the only two Pokemon that are switching in and out at the moment. And it's at this point that he takes an absolute ton from the Spikes and the Stealth Rocks, which is absolutely perfect, as I go straight for the Earthquake. As I mentioned earlier, that Togekiss dying was actually the stall breaker right there, because it meant that as soon as the Sylveon switched in, it was going to take a ton of damage, and I was going to go for that Earthquake, which would then wear this thing down. And with another Earthquake, it's going to finally take down that Sylveon, which has been causing all these issues with its wishing and peel belling all over the place. So it's at that stage that the stall breaks, because I'm finally able to break through these Pokemon. In comes the Conkeldurr, which is a Pokemon I haven't seen for a while. It's like, wow, where have you been all my life? But obviously I don't want to stay in here because an obvious Ice Punch is coming. Thinking possibly the knockoff, but Skarmory's the best Pokemon to take it, and as I mentioned earlier, I don't really care about the knockoff too much. And he does go for that knockoff, and he manages to knock off my lefties. I go for the Iron Head because why the heck not? May as well go for a flinch. I've been flinching this whole freaking battle. He goes for the Drain Punch, and just about my Skarmory manages to live. I then go for a Roost, knowing the Drain Punch is coming, so I'm going to reveal my weakness to fighting right now, which kind of sucks, but I was interested to see how much the Drain Punch would do with the weakness, and it does more than I had left, so pointless stalling, so I'm just going to go ahead and let my Skarmory die here with the Muck Punch, because even if I'd switched out, then it would have just been Death Fodder anyway, and there isn't really much point me Death Foddering right now. So I decided to go into my Thundurus, basically to do some major damage to this thing, so I go for the T-Bolt rather than the Volt Switch, because there isn't much point in me going for the Volt Switch right now. I get the Paralysis off, which is actually very useful. I was thinking, crap, I've activated Guts, but then I thought, now wait a minute, because this might actually come into play right now. So I switch into my Dragonite, which is going to be the ultimate sweeper of this team if I can actually get some sweeping off, some actual damage onto this thing. He goes for the Muck Punch, which confused me. He got fully paralysed as I go for the Dragon Dance, and then I'm thinking, well, if you're not going to go for the Ice Punch, then I'm going to go ahead and go straight for the Dragon Claw, and I managed to take down the Conkeldurr as well, which is awesome. He switches into his Ferrothorn, which obviously at this low amount of health is going to take a ton from the Stealth Rock and the Spikes, and I'm able to take that thing down swiftly with an Earthquake. So finally managing to break through this awful stall core right now, and in comes the Weavile, which I know is also going to take a ton of damage from the entry hazards, quarter from the Spikes, quarter from the Stealth Rock. And I also know at this stage from past experiences that the Extreme Speed can actually take this thing down, so without having to be KO'd by the Ice Shard, I decided to just go for the Extreme Speed and actually take down the Weavile right then and there. And then the last Pokemon is the Metagross, which I'm going to assume is the Mega, and it is. I was quite surprised by the next move actually, because he decides to Mega Up and go for the Bullet Punch, which is fine because I know that I can take that, and actually does a fair amount of damage. I probably could have lived another one, but I go for the Earthquake and actually flat out KO. I was not expecting to have that happen, bearing in mind the actual mammoth defense of Mega Metagross, but yeah, Dragonite put in some real work at the end there. It is trying to find that tiny loophole where I can jump straight in with my Dragonite, set out that Dragon Dance and just go. Because Dragonite, once he's there, he goes. The only Pokemon who can stop his sweep is Klefki, or any Pokemon that carries Prankster and Thunder Wave, because that combination is the game changer. Because even if he switches into something like a Will-O-Wisp, he's got a Lunberry, he can heal it off. So once he gets that Dragon Dance off, he can just go. And it was in this battle about finding that tiny loophole that I could expose and just batter through the team, which is exactly what Dragonite did. As soon as Togekiss died, I managed to get in with my Gliscor, start Earthquaking, get those rocks up, and managed to break through that Sylveon and Ferrothorn core that was driving me absolutely insane through the entire match. So it's quite a stally one, as you can see. But thank you so much for watching, everyone. I'll be back with some more Wi-Fi battles soon, hopefully with better sounding voice. But have a fantastic day. Feel free to go follow me on Twitch and Twitter as well. Feel free to subscribe to me on YouTube if you haven't already, if you like what you see. Yeah, I hope to see you in my next video. Thank you so much to the person who I battled. I can't remember who this person was. If you want to make yourself known to me in the comments section, then that's absolutely fine. I'll include your name in the title. But thank you so much for the battle. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see all of you guys very soon. Have a great day.